Imagine this. You spend time finding what looks like the perfect flight. The price feels reasonable, the timing fits your schedule, and the airline name sounds familiar enough that you don't question it. You book it quickly, thinking you just made a smart, efficient decision. But then the trip actually begins, and within the first hour, something feels off. Your knees are closer to the seat in front than you expected, the armrest has silently turned into shared territory, and the space around you feels tighter than it should. That's the moment it hits you. This wasn't bad luck. This was a choice you made without realizing what you were actually choosing. Because picking an airline is not just about getting from one place to another. It's about how your body feels during the journey, how your mind reacts to the environment around you, and whether you arrive at your destination ready to move or needing hours just to recover from the flight itself. And the difference between airlines is not small. It's the difference between a manageable experience and one that drains you without you even noticing it happening. Most people focus on one thing when booking: price. And it makes sense. You see two options on the screen, one significantly cheaper than the other, and your brain immediately tries to justify picking the lower number. It feels logical. It feels efficient. But what that number doesn't show you is everything that comes after. The moment you add the things you assumed were included, the price starts changing. Carry-on baggage, seat selection, sometimes even basic comfort features, all slowly stacking on top of that original number. And by the time you reach the airport, that cheap ticket doesn't feel cheap anymore. But the real cost isn't just financial, it's physical. Because once you sit down, you realize that the space you're in wasn't designed for comfort. It was designed for maximum capacity. Every inch optimized not for you, but for efficiency. And over time, your body starts reacting. Your posture shifts, your legs feel restricted, and small discomforts start building into something you can't ignore. Now here's where it gets more interesting. Two airlines can offer the same route, the same departure time, even similar pricing, and still deliver completely different experiences. And the reason for that often comes down to something most people never check: the aircraft itself. A newer aircraft doesn't just look better, it feels different. The air is cleaner, the pressure is more balanced, the noise level is lower, and even the lighting is designed in a way that reduces fatigue. These are things you don't consciously think about, but your body does. On a long flight, that difference becomes noticeable. You feel less drained, less heavy, less like you've been sitting in a sealed space for hours. On older aircraft, the opposite happens. The environment feels harsher, the seats feel more worn, and the overall experience becomes something you have to endure instead of something you can manage. Then there's the issue of consistency. Some airlines operate in a way where one flight feels great and the next feels completely different. Same brand, completely different experience. And that unpredictability is a problem, especially if your trip matters. Because when you're traveling for something important, you don't want to rely on chance. You want to know what you're getting. And airlines that lack consistency make that impossible. You might get a clean, comfortable cabin one day and a worn, poorly maintained one the next. You might get a calm boarding process or a chaotic one where everyone is trying to move at the same time. And these differences aren't small. They change how your entire journey feels. Now compare that to airlines that invest in the experience itself. The difference starts before you even sit down. Boarding feels structured instead of rushed. There's a clear flow, less confusion, less pressure to compete for space. Once you're seated, the environment feels more controlled. Not luxurious, but intentional. The seat gives you just enough room to settle in without constantly adjusting your position. The noise level is manageable. The lighting doesn't feel harsh. And the small details begin to show up. The way the seat supports your back, the way the tray table sits, the way you can move without feeling restricted. These are not random features. They are design decisions that directly affect how you feel over time. Another factor that separates airlines is how they handle time. Not just flight duration, but delays, connections, and overall reliability. Because a flight isn't just about the time you spend in the air. It's about everything around it. The waiting, the transitions, the uncertainty. Some airlines manage this better than others. They build buffers into their schedules, they recover faster from disruptions, and they communicate more clearly. Others operate closer to the edge, where one delay creates a chain reaction that affects everything after it. And if you're caught in that chain, your entire trip can shift without warning. That's where frustration builds. Not from one problem, but from multiple small ones stacking together. Now let's talk about something people underestimate: the mental side of flying. When your environment feels cramped, loud, and unpredictable, your stress level increases even if you don't realize it. You become less patient, more reactive, more aware of every small inconvenience. Time feels slower. Discomfort feels stronger. And the experience becomes something you're trying to get through instead of something you can tolerate. On better airlines, that pressure is reduced. The environment is calmer, more predictable, and easier to settle into. You don't think about every small detail because nothing is actively bothering you. And that's the goal, not perfection, just the absence of constant irritation. One of the biggest differences also shows up in long-haul flights. This is where airline quality becomes impossible to ignore. On shorter flights, you can tolerate discomfort because it ends quickly. On longer ones, every detail matters. Seat design, airflow, humidity, noise, service, all of it combines into one continuous experience. If even one of these elements is off, you feel it. If multiple are off, it becomes exhausting. But when they're done right, the flight feels manageable. You can rest, you can relax, you can actually pass time without constantly shifting in your seat or checking the clock. Service plays a role here too, but not in the way people usually think. It's not about luxury or extra attention. It's about timing and awareness. On weaker airlines, service feels mechanical. Tasks are completed, but there's no rhythm to it. On better airlines, service feels smoother. Things happen at the right time, without you needing to ask. Water is offered before you feel dehydrated. Meals are delivered in a way that doesn't disrupt the flow of the flight. And the overall tone feels more controlled. That difference reduces friction, and when friction is reduced, the entire experience improves. So what does all of this actually mean when you're booking your next flight? It means you stop looking at price as the main decision factor. Not because price doesn't matter, but because it doesn't tell the full story. You start looking at what actually affects your experience. Seat space, aircraft type, reliability, consistency, and overall design. These are the variables that determine whether your flight feels manageable or frustrating. And once you start paying attention to them, something changes. You stop making random choices. You start making informed ones. And that shift is powerful. Because now, instead of reacting to whatever happens during your trip, you're setting yourself up for a better outcome from the beginning. You're choosing an environment that works with you instead of against you. And that doesn't mean every flight will be perfect. It won't. But it does mean you've reduced the chances of unnecessary discomfort, stress, and frustration. At the end of the day, what most people don't fully realize is that you are never just buying a ticket. You are buying an entire experience that starts the moment you click confirm and doesn't end until you step out of the airport at your destination. That ticket includes far more than just a seat on a plane. It includes the space you'll live in for hours, the way your body will feel after sitting still, the level of stress you'll carry through the journey, and even the amount of energy you'll have when you land. And once you start looking at it like that, everything about how you choose flights begins to change. Because suddenly, price is no longer the only factor. A cheaper ticket doesn't mean a better decision if it comes with discomfort, unpredictability, and hidden costs that only show up after you've already committed. And those costs are not always financial. Sometimes the real cost is fatigue. Sometimes it's frustration. Sometimes it's arriving at your destination already drained before your trip has even started. And the worst part is that most people don't even connect those feelings back to the airline they chose. They assume that flying is just naturally uncomfortable, when in reality, a large part of that experience is completely avoidable. So the real takeaway is simple. You are not just selecting transportation. You are selecting the environment you will exist in for hours at a time. And that environment will directly influence how you feel when you arrive, whether you step off the plane ready to continue your journey, or whether you need time just to recover from it. And once that idea fully clicks, you stop seeing flights as transactions. You start seeing them as experiences you can actually shape. And that single shift changes everything about how you travel from that point forward. This is also where experience starts to matter more than reputation. A big airline name doesn't always guarantee a good flight, and a cheaper airline doesn't always mean a bad one. What matters is how that airline actually performs on the route you are flying, with the aircraft you are assigned, under the conditions of that specific trip. Because even within the same airline, experiences can vary. One flight can feel smooth and comfortable, while another can feel completely different, simply because of the plane, the crew, or how full the cabin is. And once you understand that, you stop making emotional booking decisions. You stop chasing the lowest number on the screen and start asking better questions. What kind of aircraft am I getting? How much space will I actually have? How reliable is this route? How consistent is this airline over time? Because those questions tell you far more about your experience than the price ever will. This mindset shift is what separates stressful travel from manageable travel. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because you reduce uncertainty. And in flying, uncertainty is what creates most of the discomfort. When you don't know what to expect, your mind stays alert. Your body stays tense. You notice every small inconvenience more intensely. But when you choose with awareness, when you understand what you're stepping into, that tension drops. You accept the experience for what it is, and you prepare for it in advance instead of reacting to it mid-flight. If this helped you understand how to actually choose better flights, then make sure you like the video so more people can see it and avoid making the same mistakes at the airport. And if you want more real, no-nonsense travel breakdowns like this, subscribe, because there's a lot more coming that most travelers only learn the hard way. Imagine this. You did everything right. You booked your flight early, you showed up at the airport with plenty of time, your documents are organized, your bag follows every rule the airline gave you, you feel confident, nothing can go wrong. And then, right at the gate, the agent looks at you and says 4 words that instantly change everything. You can't fly today. No explanation that helps. No second chance. No negotiation. Just a quiet moment where your plane starts boarding without you. And the worst part? You didn't necessarily do anything obviously wrong. Because in 2026, airlines don't only enforce the rules you see on paper, they also enforce hidden systems. Automated checks, silent policy updates, risk-based decisions, things that are never clearly explained until it's too late. Thousands of travelers experience this every single day. People who thought they were perfectly prepared. People who arrived early, followed instructions, and still got stopped. So what's really going on? This isn't about luck anymore. It's about invisible rules inside a system most passengers don't fully understand. And once you know these rules, you start to see airports differently. You stop assuming everything is guaranteed just because you have a ticket. Because a ticket is no longer a promise. It's just permission, until something interrupts it. Let's start with one of the most common and frustrating reasons people get stopped before boarding. Your name. It sounds too simple to matter, but it matters more than almost anything else. You're standing at check-in, relaxed, passport in hand, boarding pass ready. Everything feels normal. The agent scans your ticket, looks at the screen, pauses for a second, and then something changes in their expression. There's a problem with your name. Not a big problem, a small one, the kind that feels like it should be ignored, but it isn't. Because airline systems in 2026 don't rely on close enough. They rely on exact matching. One missing letter, one extra space, a hyphen where there shouldn't be one, a middle name you didn't include. Even small spelling variations can trigger a rejection. And the system doesn't care if it's clearly you. It only cares if it matches perfectly. There's no flexibility anymore in many cases. No, we understand. No, it should be fine. Just match or fail. And if it fails at the airport, fixing it is expensive, time-consuming, and sometimes impossible if you booked through a third-party site. So a tiny detail you ignored during booking can quietly decide whether your trip happens or disappears before it even starts. But even if your name is perfect, that doesn't guarantee anything yet, because next comes something even more strict, something many travelers assume is safe until it suddenly isn't. Your passport. Most people think a valid passport means you're good to go. If it's not expired, it should work, right? Not always. One of the biggest hidden rules is the 6-month validity requirement. Many countries require your passport to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your arrival date. Not 5 months, not almost 6. Full 6 months. And people miss flights over this every year. Then there's blank pages. Some countries require multiple empty pages, not partially empty pages, completely blank ones. If your passport is full of stamps, even if it's technically valid, you can still be denied. Then there's damage. Small tears, water exposure, bent covers, damaged chips, and e-passports. Things you might ignore, but scanners don't. And one of the biggest mistakes, forgetting your old passport if your visa is still attached to it. That alone can stop your journey instantly. And here's the part most travelers don't realize. Airlines can be stricter than the country itself. So even if immigration would let you in, the airline might not let you board in the first place. So before every flight, the checklist is simple but critical. Validity, blank pages, condition, and old documents if needed. But even if your passport is perfect, there's another trap waiting that catches people mid-journey. Transit rules. This is where things get confusing fast. You might think, I'm not entering the country, I'm just changing planes. That assumption gets people stopped all the time. Because in 2026, transit doesn't always mean what you think it means. Some countries require transit visas even if you never leave the airport. If your flight involves changing terminals, rechecking luggage, or passing immigration, it can count as entry. And when 2 airlines are involved, baggage rechecks can force you into situations where you technically enter a country without realizing it. Then there are hidden stopovers, routes that look simple but quietly route through countries with strict transit rules. Most people only find out when they're already at the airport counter. And at that point, there's no workaround. You either have the visa or you don't fly. So the rule is simple. Never assume transit is automatic. Always verify each stop, each country, each airline. Because this mistake doesn't show up during booking, it shows up when you're already there. And by then, your trip is already at risk. But documents aren't the only thing that can stop you. Sometimes it's your bag. You walk up to the gate thinking everything is fine. Your carry-on passed at check-in. It fit in the size earlier. No issues. But now, suddenly, the agent asks you to test it again. And this time, it doesn't fit. Same bag. Same flight. Different outcome. What changed? Not your bag. The enforcement. In 2026, carry-on rules are no longer fixed. They're dynamic. Some airlines weigh bags at the gate, even if they didn't at check-in. Others enforce size limits more strictly depending on flight load. And then there's the most frustrating one: overhead bin availability. Even if your bag is perfectly valid, you can still be forced to check it simply because the cabin is full. And you can't argue with space limitations. That decision is entirely at the airline's discretion. So the only real protection is awareness. Know your airline's exact limits. Don't assume consistency. And if possible, board early enough to secure space. Because once bins are full, your control disappears completely. But even if your bag is fine, timing itself can still eliminate you. You arrive early, you go through security, you grab a coffee, you walk to the gate feeling safe. And then you hear it. Check-in is closed. But the plane is still there. Boarding hasn't finished. You can literally see it. And it doesn't matter. Because airlines now use strict cutoffs that close earlier than most people expect. Check-in deadlines, baggage deadlines, boarding deadlines, all quietly shifted earlier in recent years. And once those systems close you out, no agent can override them. Not because they don't want to, but because the system physically won't allow it. So being on time is no longer enough. You have to be early by airline standards, not your own. And that's where things get even more unpredictable. Because sometimes, even if everything is perfect, your seat might not be yours anymore. Overbooking. Airlines sell more seats than they have, because statistically, some passengers don't show up. Most of the time it works fine, until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, someone gets removed. Not randomly. Strategically. Usually based on fare type, check-in time, or lack of priority status. And the frustrating part is that you did nothing wrong. You just weren't prioritized. In some cases, compensation is offered. But most passengers never claim it or don't know they're entitled to it. And the only real protection is simple. Check in early, confirm your seat, and make yourself harder to replace in the system. Because once the airline decides, the decision is final. But even that isn't the last layer. Because sometimes it's not your ticket, your bag, or your timing. It's your presence. At the gate, behavior matters more than people realize. A small comment taken the wrong way. A joke that sounds serious. A frustrated tone after delays. All of it can be interpreted as risk behavior. And airlines don't need proof anymore. They just need concern. And once you're flagged as a risk, boarding can be denied instantly. No argument. No appeal. Even appearance plays a role. Dress, attitude, and even perceived condition can influence decisions. In rare cases, even smell or visible discomfort can trigger concerns, because airlines would rather remove uncertainty than risk an in-flight issue. So calm, neutral behavior isn't just polite, it's protective. And then there's one final category most people never think about: system errors. You have your booking, your receipt, your confirmation email. Everything looks perfect. But at the counter, they tell you something impossible. You don't exist in the system. This usually happens with third-party bookings that don't fully sync with airline databases. And in that moment, proof doesn't matter. Screenshots don't matter. Only system records matter. And if the system doesn't show you, you're stuck. The fix sometimes requires calling both airline and booking platform, digging into error codes, and manually resolving synchronization issues. But at the airport itself, your options are limited. which is why direct bookings are often more stable than people realize. And finally, there's one more surprising category that stops flights every day: health perception. You can feel completely fine, but if you appear unwell, tired, unstable, or visibly unfit to travel, airlines may deny boarding for safety reasons. It could be something as small as coughing, sweating, or looking unusually fatigued. Because at 35,000 feet, airlines don't want uncertainty. They prefer prevention. Even pregnancy or mobility concerns can require documentation depending on airline policy. And without it, boarding can be denied immediately. So even your appearance becomes part of the system. When you look at all of this together, one thing becomes clear. Air travel is no longer just about buying a ticket and showing up. It's about navigating layers of invisible rules that most passengers don't see until they're affected by them. Name matching, passport validity, transit rules, bag enforcement, timing cutoffs, overbooking systems, behavior checks, system sync issues, health perception. Some you control, some you don't. But awareness changes everything, because most people only learn these rules after they lose a flight. You don't have to be one of them. And if this helped you understand how modern air travel really works, hit like so more travelers see it before their next trip, and subscribe for more real-world travel insights that airlines don't usually explain clearly. Because when it comes to flying, knowledge isn't just helpful. It's the difference between boarding your flight and watching it leave without you.